We're talking about time management today.
People say I'm too busy, then don't run a company.
Oh,
Literally,
yeah.
because you want to be, there's no such thing as too busy. You
Oh,
can
I'm not
always
complaining.
find time.
I never complain
And
about it, but
right, me either, right? And I was like, those are some of the silliest words I've ever heard. Because there are people out there who don't have any work, no money. They would love to have your problem, and maybe you shouldn't be taking all the clients if you're too busy to do your job at its highest level, right?
that's correct.
So we can talk about any of that or anything you want to talk about, Chris. It's always good to see you and talk to you, and I'll try to have some answers for you.
You always have answers. Hey, just so you know, Joe, just so you know, what?
Can I just glaze at you when you ask me a question? I'm like, what?
If I just say, man, this is Robert Manasier, just your name will get like a lot of views. It's like, what did he say? I don't know, but it's Robert, so he's got to be good.
And listen, business is serious, but you don't have to take it seriously, right? And relationships don't have to be serious.
I found myself to be, at times, what seems like I'm too busy. It's not a complaint, I would say, Robert, but I don't want to say being too busy even. That's not even the right phrasing. I'm a solopreneur right now, and I may have to hire a team at some point, and because I do a lot of video editing myself, video production. How do you handle that with your team, and what do you say to people that say, hey, I'm too busy to do this or do that in business?
Like you're trying to scale up at some point.
Yes, I am.
But most of the people in your networks are solopreneurs. They're fighting the same thing.
They are.
Like I talked to somebody with a finance business, and she's a one-woman shop, right? And she's like, I can't do all the paperwork. I can't do business development. I can't take care of my clients. And that's all time management. But also that's looking at your book of business and saying some of this I'm not doing the right job for, or they're not a great client for me.
That's true. We're talking about time management today, and I'm a solopreneur, Robert, and I find that I get into trouble sometimes. Well, maybe trouble's the wrong word, but it almost seems like it. Maybe it's a good trouble, but I'm very, very busy in the fact that I'm producing videos. I'm trying to meet with new clients on Zoom, mostly Zoom now, not so much local. And it's all about time management. I think I've got it down, but at some point I want to scale up so I have more time to market and sell the products that I'm selling. I guess you'd agree with that.
Some of the words I hate to hear from business owners, I'm too busy. Well, then you're not running your company properly.
Right.
And time management and time blocking is something we believe in and teach all the time. But more importantly, it's going to your highest purpose in your company. What are you best at, and what do you bring the most value to? Because if you're saying you're too busy to meet people or to get the work done, then you're not doing yourself any justice. But more importantly, you're not bringing the benefits to the clients that you've promised them. So we always talk about, weeding out books of business, knowing when to hire somebody for certain jobs that you're not good at or you don't like to do, right? And I've always shared this with everybody is I always bring somebody that loves paperwork into my companies early because I hate it. And if you ask me to fill out forms, it's going to take me forever.
Yeah.
So I always make sure somebody's really detail focused, and usually at a COO level or a project manager level, they're going to handle the detail. I'll do a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the strategy and a lot of the execution. But if there's paperwork to be done, somebody else is doing that. And in our film company, right, everybody has a job, but we're all cross-trained, so we can jump in when needed. So we've fixed the scale internal on a small level. But when we're starting to scale companies, we look at and we'll take you as the example, what you're best at, right?
Yep.
Your business development, your video conversations, right? As a host, as a presenter, as a collaborator.
Right.
Are you best suited to edit it also?
I'd say yes.
Okay.
I'd say yes on that. It's a passion. And here's what happened. I originally thought I was just going to be able to do voice work and ship it off and get paid and get checks and all that. And that would be fun. Okay, here's my voice. Where's the money? I mean, something like that. And that doesn't take as long because audio editing is, for me, is rather simple. But I decided that, and I found that I wasn't able to just walk into a business and say, hey, do you need a voice? No, they want a whole production. They want a video. They want, if it's a retail shop, they want all their stuff. They want all their merchandise, all in a picture or all on a video. And I'm the one that edits it. And that became, and I got to know the software really well. Adobe Premiere Pro. It's a great piece of software. And I use that all the time now, and I enjoy doing it. But the only drawback, if there is a drawback, and it's not a complaint really, it's just that it takes time. I just, as of this recording, produced a 25-minute story video about somebody who is a 15-year survivor of a heart transplant. And I was down in Schenectady with that. And I loved producing it. The story was awesome. It took a lot of time. And so I got it blocked out on my calendar, but I got to think that some people don't always do that right.
Well, and also, I mean, you're speaking to what you really love to do and you have a
Yeah.
passion for, right? But
Yeah.
there's also a certain way, and as one filmmaker to another, there's a certain way that you approach a story and edit a story that's unique to Chris.
Yes.
So in order to scale your brand, you would have to figure out a way to train other editors to follow that process.
Right.
And at a certain point, you could hand it off to somebody so that you can go get another great project to produce soup to nuts, right? Because that's what I just heard is I love the whole process. And I do too, as a producer and a director. I love that whole process. What I do hate is getting locked in the edit room.
Oh,
so we've created our own process of editing almost on the fly. So I usually have an editor with me while we're in production. And I'm like, that's a great take. Add it to the master shot list so I can look at this when we're done today. And I can see what we've done wrong instead of having to go through all the takes over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a way to scale, though, is create a process that you can plug other people into. And I think the biggest mistake solopreneurs and small businesses make is when they just bring people in without setting expectations and giving them a process that you need them to follow so that it doesn't hurt your brand and your business. Because your clients expect a certain Chris in everything that they get from you.
Yes.
And you have to make sure you have to bake that into the process.
So you have to train your people properly. You have to get them to be me, essentially, in my case.
Or at least understand the direction you want to take everything in. Like I do think that's, and it's not always training, it's development. You want your people to be better than you, right? I want people in my companies and the people I work with to be better than me. I want them to constantly be developing their own skill sets. One is that keeps them, as a real valuable tool to the company, but it also adds some new voices to the company that might take you in a different direction.
I kind of like that idea, because then you're taking your skills, in my case, say my skills, and this other person who is developing my skills, sort of has them, but is learning my way, will add some to that, and I very likely will like that in many cases, and they'll bring a new nuance to the whole thing, I guess.
And it adds real texture to your growing culture. And people don't talk about culture a lot when they're solopreneurs, but you have a way of working that could be the foundation for a very powerful culture and brand.
Right.
When you bring other people in, because the moment you bring other people in, it changes a little.
It does.
So there's two things, right? You can vet that out, make sure they don't get in to change it in the negative, or bring it in because they're going to add to it. And it's the same thing when you're raising money, right? There's smart money that comes with a lot of other benefits. And then there's just money that sometimes causes adversarial relationships or a path change.
Right.
Hope that helped.
Well, that sounds unique. Robert, you always have a unique perspective on things, and this is why I like talking to you.
I think everybody who runs a business should have an understanding of every element of their business. You don't have to do all the work, though. You need to have a good conversation. It's the same way when you start scaling staff. In some of the tech companies we've started, I had no idea about the tech, but I could talk about it on a certain level. So I understood what they needed from us as a resource and what I needed to get from them from the customer side. So I think some of that, we look at the operation and say, why are you doing all of this? Because it takes you away from how you make money and what you do best. And you're probably going to screw it up.
Yeah.
Right? The taxes are convoluted to begin with, even for personal. I always want somebody to look at them or give it a blessing after I kind of screw it up and probably did the wrong math. So So one of the first steps is, what is your process? What do your operations look like? Walk me through a client coming in, right? And then in there's probably bottlenecks. There's definitely mistakes because we all make them. And there's probably places where you need staff to take over, or you need an outside resource to help you with it.
Right, right. So Innovate 518 will steer you in that direction, basically.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. And if I remember our previous conversations, Innovate 518 is the umbrella organization, right? Am I saying that right? And then it goes out and you find a spot or an organization that's actually going to be niche to them or help them the best.
Yep. So Innovate 518 is the New York State hotspot program. It
Right.
deals mostly with it deals solely with high technology companies.
Right.
And Innovate 518 covers the 8 counties of the capital region.
Yeah.
But there's other nodes all over the state. But in our organization, we have 25 members who work at all different levels of business: small business, solopreneurs,
Okay.
idea stage, more advanced stages. So yeah, our job is to find you a good home or a good resource. Like, we can't do all of it. No one can, but
I would say that's would I be right in saying that solopreneurs are more prevalent than, say, people with 5 or more people in the business that come to you? I mean, you have a lot of solopreneurs that come to you, I'm guessing, right?
we have a lot. Well, and also with the current economy and all the crises that are going on, a lot of people that have been downsized love what they do for a living, and now we're going to try to build a business, right? But what you do for a living in a corporate structure doesn't match directly to how to run a business. And some of the stuff we bring them is the knowledge and the experience of how to set it up so it's a business that you can live up to, but also you can make some money from and still enjoy what you do. So yeah, right now there's a lot more solopreneurs coming out because they have to, right? Necessity.
Yeah.
Right?
I know I do a lot of networking around the Capital District of Albany, and so many people are saying, I've been furloughed, I've been let go, I've been downsized, I just don't know what to do. So I'm going to talk to everybody I can. Maybe I'll strike up a good conversation or a connection. There are more of those than people actually that have businesses and jobs, I see, at least on some of the networking calls I'm on. The bigger ones, the ones that have 50 or more people in them. I mean, but so I guess it's prevalent. So your services you've been likely busier than in the past through COVID. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, all of our partners have seen a huge increase. Yeah, there's a lot of inbound because people need resources, and and they should seek out people that have done it before. And I always say this, we've had this conversation before. You don't have to listen to everybody's advice, but you have to know where the advice is coming from. And it has to come from somebody or an entity that has lived what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's very important to, and the other thing is, everybody, when they start like in networking, they're so wide, right? I'm just trying to get a foothold. Yeah. I tell them to go really laser focused. Like, who do you work best with, and find one. Start with one. Because we're going to find every mistake you make, everything that we could change in your business is going to be done in that very isolated environment and experience. And then we can fix it so you can scale. Okay. That's really, I think, the biggest problem with most solopreneurs. They go this way. They go too wide. They go too wide too early. And what do you mean then? Like, when people tell me, well, my product will sell to everybody on the planet, there's nothing that's sold to everybody on this planet. No. One thing can be sold to everybody on this planet. Water. Nope. How many brands of water are there? We did this before, I think. But it's relevant, though. It's relevant because it maybe needs repeating. Maybe 100 brands of water or more, a few hundred. I don't know. I don't even know, but there's so many, and you're not selling to the same market. No, you're not. Right? And some people think that buying water is really silly. They take it out of their tap. Unless you live in certain cities that you can't do that, right? Yeah. Well, we drink filtered water. And no offense, it's too hard to run a small business when your client base isn't semi-cohesive. Yeah. If you have to create new models for every time you touch somebody or have a relationship or an engagement, you're going to drive yourself crazy, and you never will be able to scale, because scale is based on process. Yeah. Right? It's a process and a template on a certain level of taking them through steps. You have to know the steps of how to engage and how to bring value to your client. And if you don't know that, you're not helping anybody. Well, that's what I do with these videos that I do and the clients. We have an initial conversation. It's usually on Zoom at this point in time, and in some cases we'll do the whole thing on Zoom, and we explain to them what will happen, how long it'll be, how much it'll cost, all of that, and my entire production process. And I think when you take them through what
you're going to do for them and they actually understand it, that is, I found that is such a great thing, that provides that know, like, and trust factor that I seem to get with pretty much everybody I talk to, really. Because you're explaining the process. You say, when the production's complete, I'm going to put it on this private link that no one can see but us. And you can say, hey, that's good, or that sucks, which I haven't heard that yet, but.
You want me to say it now? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
You bring up a great point. Your process sets expectations. People need an expectation, right? They can't be so open-ended that I don't know what I'm getting. But two things that setting expectations does, it proves that you've done it before, which builds the trust, right?
Yeah.
And it shows that you're leading them through a process because you're the expert here. We talk a lot about expert platforms. Like, everyone needs to be seen for what they do best. With your process and setting expectations, you're doing a lot of that without saying it. You're not saying I'm an expert. You're saying, here's what I do it all the time. Here's what we're going to follow. And that brings comfort to people who need some kind of process to buy into. So that's phenomenal. That's great advice that you should post on all your social media.
I think I'll do it today. Thank you, Robert.
You should do it today. And then I'll write "it sucks" in it, just in comments.
You should do that.
I would never do that.
And then the Innovate people will comment on it.
It's a very positive world.
Yeah, it is. We need to be in a positive world for sure.
We do. We do need more of it.
I want to have some more. We're going to, I think, cut this short right now, but I think we're going to have some more conversations about process and scaling and things like that, but just focusing in on the niche of what would make a solopreneur able to scale and have a team and then be an entrepreneur. I guess a solopreneur is an entrepreneur, but he's just all by himself. I'm trying to get the terms.
Yeah, I think they're interchangeable. I've always used small business owner for myself. Entrepreneur came much later.
Yeah.
I know it's a great word and people love it, but at the end of the day, you're running a business regardless of what you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's a small business. Yeah, you're right. It might have a bit of intrigue.
But entrepreneur usually is a more scalable business.
Yeah, right? You're right. All right. Well, thank you very much, Robert. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Christopher. Have a great weekend.
You too. Live long and prosper.
Be well.